Hello, sports fans, and welcome back to Sports on the Spot. My name is Willie Charger. Today I'll be joined by Nick James, and together we're going to be reviewing the world of sports. Lenny and Ronnie are on assignment this week, and they won't be joining us live, but they will be giving us their lowdown and rundown that they usually produce for us. A lot of stuff going on in the sports world the last few days. Of course, the Olympic Games came to an end. The Major League Baseball race is starting to heat up, the pennant race is starting to heat up. NFL is starting to get into gear with the training camps. A lot of sports happening these days. Nick, what's the big headline over the last few days?
Well, Willie, the funniest thing I noticed was the Knicks signing Kemba Walker, the cardiac kid, because it's funny that they miss out on all these big free agents again. They can't get CP3, they can't get Kawhi, they can't get Lowry, they can't get DeRozan. So they're all pumped on Kemba Walker, and it's just classic. I don't think it's going to help them. They brought back a lot of their core team from getting the 4th seed last year, and they didn't get really far against a really young Hawks team. So I don't know if Kemba's the magic token, but they're going to sell him like he is.
Wow, that was really a big risk, I think, coming out of New York, but we'll see what happens there. As for me, my big headline came out of the Olympic Games. A couple of stories, in fact. The first had to do with gold medal winning women's two-woman beach volleyball. I like this gold medal for a couple of reasons. The two winners, Alex Kleinman and April Ross, have Southern California connections from Manhattan Beach, and Ross played at USC. So I like their win for that reason. Another reason is that Willie happens to know someone who knows someone who knows Alex. So I thought that that's kind of a...
You're on a first name basis, Willie?
Well, I wouldn't say that I'm on a first name basis with her, but let's just say that I had a personal connection with her gold medal victory. So
you're almost a gold medalist by association. That's great.
That's really kind of a stretch, but I'll take it. Anyway, hats off to Alex Kleinman and April Ross, USA gold medalist in women's beach volleyball. There was a kind of a negative story that came out of the Olympics as well. And this involved a German equestrian coach who went and punched out a horse who wasn't being very cooperative. In case you guys aren't familiar with equestrian, apparently the riders don't ride their own horses. The horses are assigned to them, and they give the rider and the horse about half an hour to get acquainted with each other so that the horse can trust the rider, and the horse will do the advanced running over the steeple and all that. Well, apparently this horse was having none of that. They're running out of time, and they weren't going to be able to do it, and apparently the coach got frustrated and punched the horse in the face. Very, very sad moment. Kind of like from Blazing Saddles days.
Mongo?
Mongo, yeah, you got it. Who, by the way, was played by NFL Hall of Famer Alex Karras, who played way back in the 60s, so there was an NFL connection there. Well, that is it for the Olympic Games, and we won't be talking about the Olympics for another 4 years, so we'll just put that subject to rest. In the meantime, Lenny has other subjects that he's going to be touching on in his Lenny Lowdown. So let's take it away, Lenny.
Are you as tired as I am of listening to white, male, condescending, know-it-all baby boomers pontificating and opining about sports and just about everything else? Let's face it, that demographic is not only boring and irritating, but it's quickly becoming irrelevant. The future of our country, our world, and most importantly, sports, is going to rest on the shoulders of our young people. It's their interests, their perspectives, and their ideas that are going to define how the world of sports is going to evolve over the next years and decades. That's why I have with me in the studio today a wonderful young man, Johnny, who you might remember from a segment back in May. He's the face of our future, so I want to give the floor to Johnny to get his insights. So let's start with what kind of sports Johnny likes to participate in. Johnny, what sports do you play?
My favorite is soccer. On Saturday, I have a game of
Soccer. Fine. Look, when I was a kid, I liked baseball. I played 3 seasons in Pee Wee League, in case you didn't know, and I still love baseball. But you know what? This is about you. So tell me what you like about soccer.
It takes a lot of skill to handle the ball.
You don't think it takes skill to field a hard grounder, hit to third, and make the long throw to first, or to hit a well-thrown curveball?
Yeah, I guess, but
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. But what a guy, right? I think if the boomers can just learn to do a lot less talking and a lot more listening to young people like Johnny, well, our future is going to be a bright one. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for that, Larry. As always, clear, concise, and analytical. We'll be looking forward to seeing you again next time. Nick, I want to spend some time talking about the NBA and then later shift some gears and talk about NFL and see what's going on in the preseason. As far as the NBA goes, there's been a lot of moves that took place over the past week. CP3 signed a mega deal with the Phoenix Suns to return. You got Kevin Durant, who signed a huge deal once again with the New York Nets, Brooklyn Nets, excuse me. But I want to start by talking about my LA Lakers, who have decided there's not going to be any running it back for them this year. They went on a fire sale and pretty much got rid of a whole bunch of their old players, and they brought in a bunch of new players. The problem with the new players is that they're pretty old themselves. So they went out and they got, of course, the big news was Russell Westbrook coming back to Los Angeles, went to college at UCLA, local boy who now is going to be on his team. You got Carmelo Anthony, who the Lakers also signed, LBJ's good buddy, who now is going to be united with his friend in the NBA for the first time. You got Trevor Ariza, former Laker, who also is coming back, along with Dwight Howard. So it's kind of like an old folks gathering. I think they became the oldest team in the NBA with the recent moves that they made. And don't get me wrong, they got a couple of young players, THT, Taylor Horton Tucker, and they brought in Kendrick Nunn. They got some young guys, but I think that this team's going to rely heavily on their veterans. Most of these guys signed the 1-year veterans minimum. Nick, what was your take as far as the NBA free agency and some of the trades? What was your take on that?
I think the Russell Westbrook signing is pretty wild. He's not the kind of guy that I see working well with LeBron because he thinks he's better than LeBron. He thinks he's better than him at all facets of the game, even though he hasn't had a championship. He's going to outplay LeBron and go hard, and it's going to be too fast-paced for these guys. Like you said, I mean, it's like bringing back Trevor Ariza, Dwight Howard, old Lakers. This is Dwight Howard's third time with the Lakers. It's like, I mean, last year, or not last year, but a few years ago with Kawhi, they held out and they missed out big time. So they were just like, we're not waiting for Kawhi this year. We're just going to get who we can get. And I was making fun of the Knicks for getting Kemba, but I don't know. Russ is one of my favorite players to watch. He just doesn't seem like a good fit on the Lakers.
Yeah, that question has come up, just how much cohesion it will be when all three of those guys are on the court at the same time. Certainly, LeBron James is going to have to adjust his game. He's not going to be the guy initiating the offense all the time. He's not going to be the guy with the ball in his hands all the time. He's going to have to, in many cases, defer to Westbrook. He seemed to be okay doing that with Anthony Davis. I don't know if he's going to be okay doing that with.
It's a different play style with Anthony Davis. You know, Russ is 100 miles an hour every play. LeBron's not going to be able to keep up. And Anthony Davis is one bad ankle injury away from this just being another wash. I'd be more worried about that than who they signed.
Westbrook's a triple-double machine. The guy gives it all every night. He really, really wants to win. I think he wants a championship, but I think in the end, he's going to be the one doing the deferring if he wants to really have any success in LA. And I think in the end, things should work out. I think they're a stronger team than they were last year. I think it's too bad that they didn't re-sign Alex Caruso. You want a good defender. You want a guy that's going to be there in the clutch, and a guy that played really well with LeBron James. He's history. The Lakers didn't want to match the offer with the Bulls, and so he took off. So they did have a couple of setbacks in the free agency, but I think in the end, I think they should be all right. What about Kevin Durant signing with the Brooklyn Nets, Nick? You think that the Nets are going to be now contenders to take it all next year?
The whole thing with the Nets is that they got three guys that if they have two of them healthy, they're going to be the best team, arguably have one of the best duos in the league. And they have a lot of talent around them. They brought Blake back. Being a former Clipper, I am a little bit of a Blake fan still. But, I mean, KD, I'm not surprised he stayed there. He got everything he wanted. I mean, they're pretty much running that organization. So they're going to get whatever they want on and off the court. And it just makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know if he still thinks this is a legit, like, title thing, especially after losing this season. If he thinks, oh, this is going to validate all my history with joining with the Warriors, like he pretty much just made his own super team with a team that hadn't just won. I don't see much of a difference. I mean, Kyrie won a championship with LeBron because of LeBron, you could say so, and Harden hasn't gotten anything. So
we'll have to keep our eyes on what's going on in Brooklyn, as well as the Phoenix Suns, who of course re-signed Chris Paul to a huge contract, and it looks like the Suns will continue to contend in the future. So we'll get back to that. Nick, let's talk a little bit about the National Football League. As you know, over the weekend they had the induction ceremonies for the Hall of Fame players and coaches. Peyton Manning, Drew Pearson, Jimmy Johnson, among the many who were inducted. The guy that stood out for me, however, was Tom Flores of the Oakland Raiders. Nick, you know I'm a Charger fan, and I'm not too fond about the Raiders, but there have been a few Raiders players over the years who I've really liked, Jim Plunkett and Tom Flores being one of them. Flores is a California guy, born in Fresno, went to Fresno City College, later University of Pacific. Had a hard time finding an itch in pro football. Struck out in the Canadian Football League, and in 1960 he latched on to the Oakland Raiders. Did you know that Flores has 3 Super Bowls? He's the only player, along with Mike Ditka, the only NFL person to win a Super Bowl as a player, an assistant coach, and as a head coach. Long overdue. My hat off to Tom Flores. He's also Mexican American, a Chicano, and there aren't too many Chicanos who have excelled in the NFL. So add Joe Cap, Jim Plunkett, and Tom Flores to my list. Any comments on the Hall of Fame ceremonies that took place over the weekend, Nick?
well, it's funny. Peyton Manning just cracking jokes as always. Megatron looks like he could still play in the NFL. And I don't know, the Hall of Fame, I was more interested in watching the game. The game wasn't very interesting, sadly. It's a little tease. It's a little tease for football. I mean, we'll see how I feel in maybe 2 or 3 preseason weeks. But I mean, it's like right there. It's just it's not much yet, though.
Yeah, I tried to watch the game because it was a football game, but I lost interest fairly early when I realized that there weren't any players on the field that I really recognized. So I think I turned it off at halftime and did something else. In other NFL news, we've had some injuries that have come out of the team training camps. Probably the most prominent involved the Dallas quarterback, Dak Prescott, who suffered a shoulder injury in his right throwing shoulder, and the Cowboys are shutting him down, at least for the time being. Hopefully his injury is not too serious. Should the Cowboys be panicking at this point, Nick? What do you think?
I mean, let's see. They got rid of Andy Dalton. Who's their backup right now? I know the guy. I just can't remember it. But
He played the other night.
I know. Well, that's the whole thing.
He really made an impact on you. I think his name is Garrett. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I felt like they had someone else that might have not played just yet. But so we got Dak, right? He's just coming off that ankle injury. He starts off the season looking like he's going to be the MVP. He's throwing up Pat Mahomes type numbers, and he's hurt. Comes back from that. Now he's got the right shoulder. It's questionable. The Cowboys are obviously going to downplay it, whether it's good or bad, just so teams have to strategize.
Remember also, he just signed a huge contract with the Cowboys just this last year. So
Yeah.
they've invested a lot. And as he goes, so too is the team. So yeah, I don't think that it's
You got
a
to be
panic
cautious.
situation, but they should definitely take their time. Okay, let's send it over to Ronnie for his Ronnie Rundown. Take it away, Ronnie.
What's going on, guys? Hope y'all doing well. I don't even know where to begin. There's so many sports going on now. You know, you got NBA free agency, you got baseball in the dog days of summer. You know, of course, that's great, especially after the trade deadline. That's exciting. I'm sure we're going to be getting into, odds and stuff, as we continue with MLB, who's going to win the World Series, etc. We can keep talking about that. Of course, football starting, and everybody's getting ready for fantasy football. I'm sure we'll be talking a little bit of fantasy football. I mean, for me, it's another year, and another year wondering, why don't we do punters? I don't understand why we can't do punters in fantasy football. We love, I don't know, me and the guys in my league, Jerry Jerriano, Freddie Federico, we love, watching the punters in the league, and they got some really cool stats like inside of 20 or net average. Punters are so important in the game, and yeah, we don't give them any credit. And I think I want the fantasy sports community to start recognize punters. I mean, even my buddy Andy Andiello was a Division III college punter, and he says one of the hardest jobs he's ever had. Now he's working construction down on the Lower East Side. So what does that tell you? So we got to start recognizing the punter stats, and I think it would be really cool to have these guys in fantasy. Maybe let us know. We'll do something a little bit different. Let me know in the comments if you want to see punters in fantasy, and we start a GoFundMe or something for it, and we try to get punters some recognition here. And obviously it's going to be more fun to watch. Then you got more skin in each game every time. So let's everybody vote for punters in fantasy football, and talk to you soon.
All right, thanks for that, Ronnie. Well, now it's time for that part of the show where we do our Sports on the Spot question. Every week we get a ton of these questions from all our viewers. This week we have Melvin and Oxnard asking, which fantasy football running back would you recommend picking on your team? I'll let you take the lead on this one, Willie, but I have a few opinions of my own.
Well, that's a good question. Running back's really important for any fantasy team. You want to have a guy who's going to catch the ball out of the backfield. You can have a guy who gets a lot of yards and scores touchdowns. I think if I were going to choose a guy, I'd go for the Los Angeles Chargers running back, Austin Eckler. He's coming off a injury-plagued season last year. He really didn't spend all that much time on the field. I think he's looking to have a healthy year and come back strong. I think the Charger offense is going to use him as a focal point because they want to take some of the pressure off of their second-year quarterback, Justin Herbert, who's going to be seeing a lot of tough defenses. So if I was going to be picking a running back for my fantasy team, it would be Austin Eckler. What about you, Nick?
I really like Austin Eckler, especially in PPR format. If he's getting a lot of little catches out of the backfield, that's where he really tends to shine, and he can make a lot happen out of nothing. I'm not taking him in the first round, maybe the end of the first round in a 12-team league. He's more like that kind of early to middle second round range for me. It really depends what position you get, to answer Melvin's question. If you're sitting at number one, I mean, it's Christian McCaffrey, even with his injuries last year, seems like the surefire thing. He just is insane with how many touches he gets. And I think Sam Darnold might actually be an upgrade at quarterback as far as being able to get him kind of not all the defense focused on him. Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, if you're in the top four, you can't really go wrong with any of those guys. This is where it gets interesting. In the middle of the first round, you got Saquon, you got Zeke, you got Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb arguably did the best last year because Saquon was out all year coming back from the ACL injury. Zeke, with Zach being out, just couldn't get it together, and Nick Chubb played great when healthy. I would tend to probably go with Nick Chubb, though I think Zeke's ready to come back and kill it. And then, you got Austin Eckler kind of in that Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon range. Some value late, but if I were drafting, I would go probably running back heavy in the first 3 rounds because wide receivers are deep this year.
Historically, Eckler has been injury-free. He's been able to get through the NFL season without missing very many games. So you want to have a running back who's going to be durable and who's going to be there every week. And that's another reason I would stick with Austin Eckler. We'll be talking more fantasy football as we get closer to the start of the NFL real season. But that's going to be it for today's show. I wanted to thank Nick for all of his insight and for helping to pick up the load without our compadres here this afternoon. Like I said, Ronnie and Lenny will return next week. So for now, that's going to be it for today's show. I want to remind the viewers that if they have any questions to ask of the Sports with Spot team, you can ask them in the comments section of our YouTube channel, or you can send it to the email at sportsonthespot@gmail.com. You can also like, comment, and subscribe to our show. That's always a plus. So that's going to be it for us. So see you all next time.
Unbelievable.